You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 10th, 2025 meeting of the Long Beach Building Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
I'm not following. Thank you. But you know, the contractors have flushed their cement, cleaned their cement trucks out on the street, as your report indicated. They left piles of sand, all sorts of stuff. I wonder what ramifications are there. I know the MS4, you know, I talked about it. They don't have any penalty structure, but what's the sense of doing this if nobody's going to listen to it? What do you think?
You know, I don't want to, I hate to put Chris on the spot. Actually, I don't hate it, but I don't know if we can issue citations for those, even though they're not our ordinances. I think what Pete's asking is, so, and I don't know if I sent copies to you, unless they have their own permit, which only one project here has their own permit. I do the MS4 inspections. So when I do those, there are some deficiencies. In particular, Pete mentioned the Loma Portal project. There was sand that was from the site that was running off and going down to another street to Loma Portal. They weren't properly, they didn't have a proper clean out area for concrete. They didn't have silt fence or silt worm around the project. So in contacting them, they got that stuff done, but I don't know if we can write a ticket for something that we don't have an ordinance for, or by us adopting the MS4 ordinance, can we write citations for that?
I believe that we have a penalty provision, and I'll have to look at it. I'm not, but I think that we can discuss whatever violations there are, but I believe we did adopt the MS4 ordinance. So when you're talking about compliance and whatever is required on the state level, we do have an MS4 ordinance, even though we used what was the recommended form right as developed by the state. Like the town has adopted that ordinance, and I believe that there's a penalties provision in there, but I'll touch base with you on that, and you can decide what applies to your situation.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, who's the penalty written for? I mean, that ordinance was, or that requirement was basically put this in or you die, you know, from MS4. So if a penalty is imposed, who imposes it? Is it the MS4 people? Is it the town? Who is it?
Well, it's the town. They're complying. We have our own requirements that follow the state's mandates. So it will be us enforcing that. Against who depends on how the ordinance is written. And we can always make that more stringent. And if it's something you can review, or some of your other uses where you have found that the penalty often doesn't motivate compliance, because someone just rather pay. So that part of it, I believe that what we draft follow what the most recent versions of except I don't know offhand some of these violations are.
So if you find that we don't have the right to do it, I'd like to get a consensus from the group as to whether we should impose our own ordinances for violation. And would they be legal? Any comment from anybody?
It sounds like we adopted MS4 ordinances. And so we can look at the penalty section in those ordinances. And if they're there, we should enforce those ordinances and those penalties. And, you know, it sounds to me like those penalties probably should be to the contractor, not necessarily the homeowner, because the homeowner's not there every day. These violations tend to occur when they occur, and the homeowner may not be around. That sounds like what you've done.
Yeah.
I think so.
That sets out the procedure, we have a table that sets out, the fines. Start at 250 and then, it goes through the different levels of offenses, so. Send that to everyone. So, this MS4 ordinance, even though it's mandated by the state and we had to do it, that more is carrot and stick to motivate you for other grant programs and those things to get compliance.
Right.
This, for all intents and purposes, and probably those some contractual discussions Larry recently had is, these are becoming more and more responsibilities on Larry, and some point these are pretty significant
Well,
to follow and enforce, et cetera, so.
well, some of these should be enforced by the police department. I mean, they're the ones who run the road every day and you see a pile of sand or any kind of, they need to be, cognizant of the ordinance itself and what it means. Similar to the building ordinances. They're the ones who are on the street, they have the obligation to do it. I mean, we just gotta tell them to do it.
It seems to me that we do have, Carter. And I mean, now the police have to call and report when they see piles of sand on the street. I mean, I don't understand how much more we can put on the police. They seem to be a pretty well-run department, professionally run, and I don't know that they need to be out there looking for MS4 ordinance violations.
So they shouldn't be enforcing building ordinances either?
I think we do have a inspector, we do have a commissioner, and should they, I guess if someone calls it in and they call it to Larry and Larry then calls the police department, but I'm not sure that, that's their job. I do know that Mark Swistek early on said that, yeah, his guys are on the street. So, if they see someone building a house and there's no permit, on the other hand, our permits are not always installed where somebody can see them. I myself have called in to ask if there's a permit. I mean, now I can look it up on our new system, which is great. But it just seems like how much do we keep putting on the police? And again, we have an MS4 ordinance and Chris will get that to us and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, help me with what we put on the police that isn't on their docket right now. What have we charged them with that's unreasonable?
I think you started this conversation about MS4, so I don't really want to go into the police department. I'm just saying that at some point we have an MS4 ordinance that Chris is going to provide to us so we can all look at. And if the compliance, I think the fees need to be looked at, we can all look at that. Right now, I don't have it in front of me.
Anyone else? Okay, well, it sounds like, Chris is gonna take a look at the MS4 ordinance. I will do the same and find out what the enforcement or penalties, I guess, how we can.
Yeah, it's pretty extensive, and again, that's what happens with the canned. It's like we talked about, some of those things do and don't apply, which is they gave us some of the provisions that you didn't want to control on, but it's pretty, you could require people to go to training. And you have a lot of different options. It's just, as we talked about, there's a lot to it in terms of oversight too.
And one of the things too, and this is in general with the MS4 situation, that we are our own MS4. So a lot of when you go through the training and the certification to be a federal inspector, a lot of it is not so much enforcement at the start, but is education and training so that you could let people know what they have to do to be in compliance with MS4. In our small town, a lot of our builders, I shouldn't say a lot of, some of our builders may not know what MS4 rules are. So that's our job. And that's basically what I've done. And I think everybody's gotten a copy of those. When I do the inspection and I send those out, we send those. If there's nobody on site, I send those out to the individual contractors and then there's some discussion back and forth so that they can be compliant. And then that's worked so far, but we'll check to see if, as far as citations are concerned. And it makes sense what Chris said, that it's likely just flow through our normal citation situation. Anything else on that? Okay, moving along, 2207 Castleton, those citations remain outstanding. I did have an email from them last week and I did not respond. I'll take a look at those and see what we want to do, what our next enforcement step is, whether it's a 10-day letter, or to force them to bring the property back into compliance. 2135 Avondale, that fence has been removed. Information was provided to Carter that there's a local builder that's going to take over the fence. They'll get a survey and apply for a permit. 2933 Belle Plaine Trail, we haven't received anything on that. 3100 Lakeshore Drive, we have not received anything on ownership, although I didn't ask Chris, but I don't think we've received anything.
I've raised the issue before of signs. I get that resolved now. Whether it's owned by the Shoreland Hills people or the town or anybody, the town has jurisdiction over what kind of signs can be up. Am I wrong?
Yes.
There's a sign.
The type of signs that can be installed. And yet there are signs there. What do we do about it? There are signs in conflict with the town ordinances.
Well, they could be cited. And then if the citation carries a monetary penalty until it's corrected.
I think they should.
Well, that's the quick answer. And then you have to determine, well, how long have they been there? Who put them up? Did they have permission to put them up?
A long time, no.
And so then we start to get into the issue of a long time, that starts to get to your ability regarding enforcement. So we definitely things you have to look at.
Okay, I provided pictures of the signs to the town at least 3 meetings ago. So that's long enough in my book. And they've been out for years. And the issue of who owns it seems to be clouding this topic.
Concerned, the ownership, that part doesn't, but there's state code that says you have 2 years to enforce ordinance violations. So therein lies the issue, is if there's an ordinance violation, have they previously, did they get permission from somebody? And I'm not saying they went through the process. I know those signs likely wouldn't pass muster these days, but previous versions of building commissions or town councils, and then the ongoing violations for a period of years may impede your ability to address those unless they're in the town right away, not allowed, et cetera, or they take them down and they cease use. So those are just some considerations versus not just clear cut citations and have to remove them. We'll have to definitely make sure that we're comfortable with the answers to some of those issues.
Well, I don't understand why this is not being addressed. I mean, I don't agree with your analysis. These signs, if we put up a sign tomorrow that says, no such and such, and somebody already has a sign up, they can't keep it on. It's not like we're taking away their economic value or anything like that that causes a problem. Taking their value, whatever that term is. These signs are not, they're not legal, they don't conform to our ordinances.
I don't know, but, and that's,
And whether they were up before or just put up now,
the issue
I
is when,
assure you that our sign ordinance is older than the signs that put up. I mean, I've been down there recently, but there was one just put out for, don't park your golf carts here.
And I'm with you. All I'm saying is you need to be, it isn't as simple as if you say, Carter, go write a citation and then 10 days we take the sign down, because there is a state code, and I'll share that with you guys. I've shared that before, and it's affected other enforcement. That, is it known? Did we enforce it? There's a 2-year period to enforce violation and ordinance violations. The statute of limitations on some of those things. Have they been cited before? Did they have a variance? Did they have a license? I don't know. Again, I'm just pointing out to help you make an informed decision. And we could do whatever the building commission would like. You know, like you said, it's some of those that pile up and they don't get dealt with, you're right. Then let's say that golf site, it sits there, you're aware of it. If you do nothing at some point, your hands become tied to do it. So action is, one way or another. I don't disagree, you have to do something, but that's where we kind of get bogged down and spinning our wheels.
At one point, and I can't tell you how long ago it was, at one point, there was an issue with the portable toilet. And there was a sign at the time, I think it was a larger sign. They had to take the portable toilet down, and then they had to take the sign down. That, I don't know, and I'm asking, not telling, I don't know if that establishes a timeline. So let's say in 2021, there was an enforcement action from the town on the porta potty and the larger sign. And those.
They got variance.
Did they get a variance?
They got some sign variance at some point.
Okay, so that may establish some time frame. I'll see if I can figure out when that was. And so, Pete, are you asking then that we cite the sign, cite them to the signs?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Well, what sign? What? I mean, so they came and they got a variance, right? And then they got a building permit to build a sign. Did they not?
I don't remember. One sign is the.
They had one that existed, and I think they put up a sister sign. I'm not sure.
Right.
I do know at some point, those were two different matters, because they did, and speaking only from recollection, they asked for a variance regarding the porta potties, and they were denied. And they got a sign variance with regard to whatever they put on it.
Right, and that sign is there. There's two other signs. I think the ones that Peter referring to is there are two other signs on the property since that time. And that's the sign you're talking about, Pete?
Yeah, ninja, but, for example, there's a sign that says private beach. Okay, that's completely offensive. But, because there aren't private beaches.
I think there was also an issue of a thick wool barrier that they put up, and I'm not sure if that involved variance or not.
That's a fence.
But I don't know if it's still there or not, but,
Yes, it's there.
and I think maybe they got the variance for that. I don't know. I guess we need to find out if they got the variance for it.
All right, we'll have to look and see what they got the variance for. I know the two smaller signs were not part of the variance, and they came up just on their own. When I say they just, one day they were there.
So it's a different matter. Again, historically versus a year or 2 years.
So I'll look up what they got a variance for and see if we can establish a timeline.
Yeah, they did it in December of 2021 is when they got a variance.
They did come to a previous council at one point and ask about a sign and got approval for one.
I think that's what Chris is talking about.
I'm looking at findings and decisions for their variance.
Yeah, this
Not
wasn't to
30
the
by 30.
BZA, this was to the council.
And that is their main sign. That is,
30 by 30.
yes. And
Large.
then they put some additional signs up. And those are the ones you're referring to, Pete?
Very good ones around the street.
Yeah.
And I think you also have issues of are they in the right of it, right? I mean, that's another thing is if they're on the street,
Oh,
they might not be able to be placed there either, so.
but the issue of, the road, that's town property. The right of way on Litchfield Drive is 50 feet. In town is 40 feet. So there's a substantial, issue there. It's just that, when are we gonna resolve this issue of ownership? Is that still an issue?
Right now, that issue is not resolved because it ultimately won't be resolved unless and until you go to a court or they otherwise, once that was mentioned in a meeting, they haven't been back. So that has not been forced to head and likely not going to unless a court says.
Right, that came up, the ownership issue came up when they applied for a permit to enlarge the deck that's there. And then there was a question of ownership. So our request to them was, unless you can prove that you own it, we can't give you property, a permit to build it, you don't own. And that's been, I don't know, I'd have to look back in the minutes. That's been 5 months probably.
It's been months, yes. We have researched, the town has a position. The town should act as if the town owns what they own, and that's how it should be unless something goes on.
Our discussion, we said to them, the burden of ownership proof is on you, not on us.
But I do think you have to decide collectively, this is a recurring theme, can they put this rope there? Can they put a private beach sign? And as a board, deciding what you want to do or not, because it continually comes up.
We need to look back, see what we did, what we gave them variances for, what the town council allowed them to do. And see if there's anything new that's been put up and maybe bring up from next meeting. I think given 2 years to enforce things too, we probably need to make sure that we've made some progress with 2207 Chastleton, because this has been going on for probably 6 months now.
Yes, it has.
So why don't we make sure we're making some progress with that? So 2 years doesn't come up now.
Well, I'll pull the variance up. I'll get with Chris. I'll get the variance. We'll send it off to everybody so they can read it. And then we'll just have to have some direction from you guys, what you want to do. Carter and I are certainly, willing, we'll certainly cite them and request that the signs be taken down once we figure out what they got a variance for. Is that okay? All right.
And what the town council may or may not allow them to do.
Was that, Joey, was that a variance or was that just a
It's a
request?
separate issue, and it just came to the town council, and was for the fence, not a sign, the road fence to be put up. And the council at the time gave them permission to put that road fence where it is.
I believe they did, but I don't remember the details.
Yeah.
So,
That's the time I recollection.
so help me with what the town can do versus what, did the town pass an ordinance, allow them to do that? Or was it just a resolution?
Must have been a resolution. It's just my recollection. I wasn't on the council at the time.
I mean,
I probably was, but I don't remember.
I mean, I've always operated under that method that the town can't override an ordinance unless they pass a new ordinance. The variances are the property of the BZA. So if they wanted to do, they get a variance of the ordinance, that would be a BZA, the town can't just say, oh, well, forget that. Well, go ahead and do it. We resolve that you can do this. That's not right.
I think first we need to find out what we.
Yeah. So, and that should be going forward. You can't just override an ordinance because somebody close to whatever they feel like losing. You have to make an adjustment to the ordinance. Otherwise, it's a purview of the BCA.
So what do you guys want us to do here?
So let's find out what variances were granted, let's find out what the council did. And we can bring it back next month.
I agree with Bob on that.
Okay. Okay, next up is 2009 Oriole Trail, permit number 23-11-236. Was issued on 11/17 of 2023. The work was not started, never started because of scheduling conflicts. So the owners would like to have the permit, I don't know what we would call it, I guess I would either reissued or a new time frame put on the permit.
Why don't we just call it an extension?
Okay. You want, is that a motion, Bob?
So,
Okay, second,
I would second.
Edith? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. You're all set, Bob. 2907 Bell Plain. Is that yours?
It is mine. Permits have been issued.
So what is it on here for, do we know?
I have no idea what it's on. It was at the last meeting.
The last, yeah, you had to move the deck back behind the, you have to move it.
That was the one,
Did you submit a new drawing? Okay, submit a new drawing and then you're all set. Stop 24 beach access, we have a license agreement. So that would be when it's filled out or approved, I guess. Joy and, I forgot who was it, Chris?
Well, there are two different ones. I have zero information from any homeowner or any contractor, and so because it continues to linger, the town council previously approved and authorized town council president to sign when you finalize those terms. So I'm just getting it off my plate. That's why you have the drafts with blanks, because I have no idea that we were supposedly going to be given descriptions as to the scope of work and equipment. I've yet to see it, but it's not on my plate.
All right, I know who's doing the work for the one, and I'll talk to, it's Woodruff. I'll talk to Woodruff and tell them that they need to get the information. And then I'm assuming it just goes to Joy, and who else has to sign, Tom?
Whoever's the homeowners and insurance.
Okay,
and had a permit request from the contractor who wants to access the beach?
no, we were waiting for the agreement so that they could figure out what they needed to do. So,
Shouldn't we deal with it all at one time?
Yes.
right,
Let's not let them go down the beach and then tell them we can't do it.
right. Tree ordinance and the parking and the definitions, why don't we put those, we'll do those later. Let's move on to new business, 2528 Lakeshore Drive. That is a new home. It meets all current zoning setbacks on all four sides. They do have a septic permit, which is a pump and haul permit, and it meets our height requirements.
It's on Lakeshore Drive.
Yes,
Okay, so let's talk about this pump.
yeah.
Who has authority to issue that? And have we checked it out with the state approved pump and haul new property? Does the FEMA do that? Is, everything, you know, all the governing bodies do that? I mean, it's an unbelievable departure. You know, what used to be, a requirement that you couldn't put any portion of a, private wastewater facility within 200 feet of the water supply. Then it went to, well, you could do it if you, have technology, New Indiana. Call that the Presby system, and now we've got one. And I'd like to know what the authority is to allow pump and haul on a new property, or even an old property, but particularly a new property. I mean,
I think the county gives them a permit.
The county,
County gives them a permit.
the county issues a pump and haul permit.
okay, but does it meet state requirements? Does it meet FEMA? I mean, this,
Yes, the pump and haul, a pump and haul system can hold up to 9,000 gallons. That's the limit from the state. And that's written into the state septic code. So,
And that's allowed within 200 feet of Lakeshore Drive, of public water supply. I can understand the boom outs. But there are other provisions in that stuff, so you can't have this stuff within 200 feet of a public water supply. Has that been checked out with the powers to be in the state?
But with Pump and Hall, there's no drainage field.
Fire.
With Pump and Hall, there's no drainage field, so why would 200 feet matter?
It's a private wastewater facility. That's how it's defined. It's not defined as drainage or whatever it is, pressurized system. It's defined as a private wastewater system, facility, which that is. So drainage has nothing to do with that particular aspect. And so, Chris, help me with the ordinance that was passed that said the county must abide by the state rules only and can't have any of their own overriding. Does that make sense? Is that what it was?
Yes.
So, to me, the stuff has to be cleared by the state. And then I would also check, this seems to be a total disregard of things like the Great Lakes organization. I just can't believe that this was all checked out all the way up and down the line. I don't know who all has jurisdiction, but a lot of communities or a lot of government bodies have jurisdiction from Lakeshore Drive for various things, over various things. So I believe this should be checked out.
Pete, I think your original question was answered, that the state and the county are responsible for issuing the septic and the pump and haul permit, period. So what's the argument? If it's okay with them and they issued the permit,
State did not,
they have the authority, so
state did not issue the permit.
well, go argue with them then. Go argue with them.
Well, I think it would easy to get you an answer in terms of looking at the hierarchy, and the county is who the state appoints on their behalf, and the local responsible governmental agency for that aren't, but can certainly verify that. And if there's questions, the other thing is the town has the option to appeal on its own any of these in the future, right? Go through and appeal with the county and have them looked at, and you guys experienced that in reverse with the public safety building, for instance. It's not unreasonable to ask those questions, but I think that hierarchy and where the county gets its authority would be an easy answer to find for you to demonstrate at least how that is.
Historically, we've taken a permit from the county as, right, when they give us a permit, then we're saying, okay, you satisfied the sanitary, the waste handling requirements. And then it comes, that was always our first look as the building commission or as the building department. Do you have these outside agency approvals that we deem necessary? And the pump and haul is just like a septic permit. I'll look for it and see exactly what it says.
I can speak firsthand. This 200 feet from the public water supply was addressed about 12 years ago. And the state was not even aware that the county was approving things on the trigger. Within, in those days, 50 feet of Lake Michigan. So to say that the county has religiously and continuously addressed the issue with the state, I didn't hear that. I know they have. That's a personal experience.
I had some other concerns with this application. One is I didn't see the holding tank on the site plan. Therefore, I assume it probably wasn't included in lot coverage. I assume it takes up some space. I think we need to see that, see numbers with that included for lot coverage.
It's a below grade tank. It's subterranean. There's no above grade tank. It's below. You know what I mean? It's underground.
And that makes a difference.
Well, historically, we haven't consider septic tanks and fields, lot coverage.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that's right or wrong.
We have,
It's just, anytime there was a septic system involved, we hadn't considered.
septic and, what do you call sprinkler systems were identified as, subsurface and did not, get calculated in the, lot coverage.
Okay, I didn't see setbacks on this, site plan that we have, if we need to see those.
Yeah, we've got them here. Hold on, let me pull them. What day did you guys turn that in? I'm looking for the information. Do you know what day it was?
December 9th.
December 9th?
Yeah.
Okay, that's easy for me to find.
12.
Here we go. Okay, here's you see the tank, if you look at, I think you're looking at the same thing I am, Bob. On the, middle of the lower side, there's the 2,500 gallon Norwesco holding tank. The setbacks are 12 foot on the east and 12 foot on the west. And the 15-foot line is, if you look at the driveway, you'll see this hatched or whatever, notation for concrete there. You'll see it's a 16-foot setback to the front section side of the house. Or is that 15? Oh. It's 16 foot. So you got 12 on each side, 16 foot on the north, or on the south, excuse me. And, on the south, it doesn't look like there is a notation here for that property line.
See that one?
Well, there's 25 foot. Let's see where this is. That's edge of water. That's not what we need. Let's see what else we have here. It's 28, if you look on the, what I have up here, if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, here, I'll zoom up farther. It's 28 foot, it's 29 feet, 28 foot, 11 and a quarter to the seawall, which is not the rear property line. If you look at the natural or high water mark that the Army Corps has set, it's 584. I can't see that, but there's a notation there.
Well, and I guess that's another question I have is,
Yeah, there's,
is the vegetation on the other side of the seawall, or is that just sand beach as it's labeled? Because if it's just sand and beach, then they need to do a new determination of natural and high water mark, and that may affect their, not line, their area of their property, and mess up their calculations. Because just because there's a seawall, if there's a seawall and there's no vegetation on the other side of it, that will in fact become a natural and high water mark, and probably needs to be redetermined before we can prove anything on this property.
All right, so you've got your question, but Bob, I want to make sure I'm getting this down right, is there vegetation on the lakeward side of the seawall?
Natural vegetation, yeah, not just something like that.
Okay, and, but on the rear yard, the 28-foot meets the requirements,
If you use the seawall.
right?
And the other question I have is view protection. I don't see any neighboring properties to know if view protection is going to be an issue.
No, the lot to the east is vacant. Let me see if on the site plan, I don't know. Heidi, you can help me here. Is the lot to the existing house shown on there?
I don't have.
Okay, let me see if I can see it. You can see, Bob, if you look at this one, where the existing house is next door. And this house is behind the existing house.
Okay. And on the other side?
There's no property. I'll
vacant lot.
Yeah, it's a vacant lot. The next house down is that yellow house right at 26, on the west side of 26. I can go look at that if you'd like.
And the last question I had is, do we have 3 parking places?
I'm gonna say yes, but I better look. How many places in the
I
garage?
got 2 in the garage, 2 in the drive.
Okay. Okay, so I'll check the vegetation and the north line. And what do you want to do about the septic now?
If something buried is a problem, then you can't change our ordinance because we think it ought to be. I think that we have to prove it on that basis. So at least we can't let that be a reason not to. But I do think we need to check on that natural order high water.
Okay. Anything else?
The septic pump and haul, that's a viable, and that's been approved by the state and the county. And according to this project meets all current zoning, so that would include the pump and haul permit and the placement of the retention basin. So what's the issue with the pump and haul permit?
There is not an issue with that. The only issue is where's the northwest property line?
Oh, all right, so everything but go.
Everything but that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You got, who did the survey? Is it they?
And so this was done, July of 23.
Sorry, Heidi. Just hit that, so that red, the thing below is red under the, you'll see it. There you go. Then just tell us who you.
I'm Heidi Hornaday, architect for the Napletons, and we got the survey done 7/26/23. So that was the determination of the ordinary high water mark, and guess my question would be, how is that updated?
There are people you can hire to come determine.
And that's a requirement from a year ago. Well,
I'm pretty sure Steve could do it for you. If not, he will have you go to John with question.
Yeah.
And John can do it for you. So is that the only, anything else? Thanks, Heidi.
That's the only remaining issue that I have.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Heidi, how about if I just get with you one day and we'll go over get a hold of Fate, and we'll see if we can just get them to establish that line for us.
And then go back on next month.
Yes. 2208 49. $50 of privacy fence. The only thing that it doesn't say on here, which we would want to be sure of, it's drawn behind their property line, but we'd have to have them establish their property line and make sure that the fence is 6 inches inside of it. That's the only thing I noticed on here. Anything else from anyone else? Well, normally we would just approve this and then Carter would make sure that the property line for the fence is 6 inches inside the property line.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Okay, motion by Joyce, second by Ken. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Okay. Next up is 3028 Mayfield Way. That is a pool and landscaping. John and Mary Walter are here. John is the architect, Mary is the owner. Let me pull your stuff up here. So John had called me, maybe I'll just give you a little background and then try to look for stuff. So John had called me probably, 2 months ago and said, hey, Mary Walter would like to put a pool in her yard. I said, okay. And we discussed, which John is always aware of anyway, 35% coverage, 10-foot side setbacks, 30-foot front, 20-foot rear. And he asked about the pool. Technically, this is a Mayfield Way address. It's across the street from my house. If we give you guys any bearing. So it's a Mayfield Way address. The front of the house and all the activity getting in and out, the garage doors are on Moore Road, which is, is just a one lot depth there. So when John asked about that, I said, well, it's a question of whether the building commission would consider the Mayfield Way, the front of your house, or Moore Road. And, we've had this come up at various times. One was a project that I was involved with on Northmore. Their address was actually Northmore, but they were in the zoning for Lakeshore Drive, which gave them different setbacks. So I guess the first thing to do is to have some discussion, or what's the everybody's opinion of whether the pool is in the front yard or the backyard. We don't allow pools in the front yard. I guess that's the first thing that you'd want to understand. So then the question is, are we going to consider the backyard or you know what I'm saying?
On fire property, we identified methods for identifying the yard.
Yes.
How's that applicable?
It doesn't. That was the narrowest portion. Well, I shouldn't say that.
It had to do with where other homes were, adjacent to them or with that rear. Also, there was a definition in the appendix, which we talked about, or a picture that showed the front, the definition front and back. Those are the ones that should apply. And if all homes, their neighbors are, their front yard is technically Mayfield Way, then I think that should be there. That should, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, or-
No, well, here, why don't I do this? This might make it easier for everybody to see. Okay, if you look at the bottom of the page, or towards the bottom of the page, this is probably a unique situation where there's every property on this, in this little section that borders on two streets is the same. If you look at the one at the top of the page, see where my mouse is going back and forth? That, I don't know the address, but see where their driveway is? That's a Mayfield Way address. Their driveway is on Moore Road, the front of their house where their front door is on Moore Road. They have a pool, this is a pool right here. This house is, same situation, Mayfield Way to the west, Moore Road to the east. Their front door is right here behind the thing where the L meets here. Their garage is here. You could see the driveway. So they're same thing, Mayfield Way address. The business end of their house or the front entrance where the cars park. This is Mary's house right here. So this is the driveway. This is the garage right here. And this is all the living space in the house. And the proposal is to put a pool here. This house is, same situation. The garage is right here on the street. Their front door actually faces south instead of east or west. But the garage is here, and then this is a Mayfield address. But their house's business end is on the Moore Road side. This is Dr. Haupt's house. There's not really much of a comparison because he has a Montclair Way address. He doesn't have a Mayfield Way address. So all of the houses, here's one more. Now this has a Mayfield Way address, and their driveway and garage is on Mayfield Way. So 5 properties that are similar in address and where they access the property. 4 are the front of their house is Moore Road, and the rear of the house is Mayfield Way. Make sense?
Where's my house?
I don't know. Where is your mailbox?
On more.
It's on Moore Road. So I don't know, as I explained to John that was the issue that would come up here first. And if we don't make that determination, the next step is to go to the BZA to get that determination made.
Another issue I have that we probably ought to get resolved, and maybe there's an easy explanation, is the coverage calculations suggest that walks and hardscapes are getting smaller. I really couldn't see how they were getting smaller on what they presented.
Let me pull the drawings up.
It's probably there. You can see.
This is John Landscape Architect with Plan Environment Associates, and yeah, for the lot coverage, to balance it, the existing calculations. So I have 41.1%, and we're going to remove all the walkways here in the sheet L001, showing some of the removals. There's also a lot of gravel. There's like a gravel walk storage area to the north of the existing deck and house that we're also removing, so as well as kind of an overgrown pathway on the south side of the house. So kind of take the look.
So that is, you've got a before and after.
Correct, yes. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and the pictures are all good. Yeah, right. If you stop there, let me read for a second on this.
Where do you want me to go? I can zoom up.
Oh, just zoom up. I'll roll up on the plate a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. On that, the sheet you were just on. Yeah. So there's an existing large gravel area on the side of the deck here on the north. There's also kind of an overgrown, removed gravel and edging. So all of that's in here is getting removed and turned back.
That's marked then on the other one, on the proposed one.
Proposed is gone, yeah. This is just not there.
So that was gravel.
Correct. This whole area is gravel.
That's where there's gravel on there.
Correct.
Just
Yeah.
if somebody can come, that can't come back to us and say, you guys didn't do your job.
No, absolutely. And then there's a pathway on this side. It's a little overgrown right now, but there's no pathway here that we're going to remove. So taking those two out.
That's gravel also.
This is actually stacked stone. It's actually the stone step. Okay.
Is that labeled on there too?
Correct. Yes, it's a like some path, and then we'll stick on.
And so our ordinances say that pools have to be in the backyard, is that correct?
Yes,
Or specifically said they can't be in the front.
right,
Can't be.
right. It doesn't say, yeah.
And this is how far off of, Mayfield, is that the street?
I'm not sure your question.
How close is this pool?
Oh, be to Mayfield?
Be to the street.
Hold on, let me scroll. Well, you can see the 30-foot setback right here. I'll zoom up so you can see it.
And I would say that's maybe
See this, Bob? This right where my mouse, John, you want to point that out?
Yeah, this line right.
That's
that line is
That's the 30-foot.
So I guess another 8 to 10 feet beyond there. I don't have the exact dimension if you for the pool, but.
And there's a bunch of trees on the left between your pool and.
Yeah, this is just some landscape planting, some shrubs and some.
We're not there now.
But
Yeah, this is all for it's.
well, I guess my thought is if we're gonna say that that's the front yard, we can't approve it at the building commission. But it certainly could go to the BZA, and if there's a big distance between the street and the pool, then it's gonna be, of course, fenced in and landscaped away so people aren't gonna see it. There's a fairly good chance that the BZA would say yes. They might, however, one of the things that we have to consider, and they sometimes do and sometimes don't, is there something specific about this property that allows you not to use it because of this property, the way it's configured or something like that? They could say, a pool's really not a necessity. I don't know if they're gonna say that or not. I sit on the BZA and I never know what they're gonna say. But that's kind of, I think, gonna be an issue if you go to the BZA, if that's what you guys choose to do. But really, right now, the only issue then is the pool in the front yard, is that right?
Right,
All right, so
the property is non-conforming now because of it's over 35%,
they're decreased.
but they're decreasing it
So I would make a motion
and swapping some.
so that they can move along, that we deny it at this level. And of course, let them know they go to BZA, and of course, I've told them why, maybe you can send them a letter.
I'll send a letter and I'll cite the zoning that says you can't put a pool in the front yard.
They're right. And I guess maybe our question would be, should we be getting, appeal the having it in the front yard or actually having to have this change?
I don't think I don't know that you'd be able to change the address.
Okay.
That's above my pay grade.
Sure.
I think as we discussed earlier, I think you have a much better shot. You have a neighbor 2 houses down to put a pool in their front yard. It's the exact same situation. And I would never give you advice to say, yeah, I think you're gonna get it, but Bob did, so. No,
I'm not saying.
as I've said to you, I think that it's a fairly reasonable request.
Sure. Yeah.
So how big is why that's not a backyard? Where they want to put it.
Because it's a Mayfield Way address, so that would be.
The rest doesn't get into any of our rules, it's placements. It's alignment with other properties. Where's the front door?
Their front doors on Moore Road.
Yeah, I mean, to me, more roads are, that's where they come and go, kind of stuff, the other stuff in the back, that is the backyard.
So if your front door is on the other street, then the other option would be to go to the advisory plan commission and request a address change. So that's the other way you could approach it.
So that address change doesn't have any bearing on our front, back, left, right, it's just an address. So I think that this is technically their backyard.
Well, it says in our definition, in case of an interior zoning lot, a line separating the zoning lot from the right-of-way line of the street or place, that is the front zoning line. It doesn't say anything about front doors or,
Okay, so read that again.
in case of an interior zoning lot, a line separating the zoning lot from the right-of-way line of a street or place. That is the zoning lot line front.
So what's the answer?
That makes no sense.
I'm just telling you what our ordinance says.
It was written before AI.
Because there's 2 right of ways on the lot. That's easy if you don't have one right of way,
Yeah, yeah.
Did you similar with Wernicke though? Wasn't that the determinant?
That was if he found, or you did, somebody found that it was said the narrowest,
That's only for a corner lot.
right, on the corner lot, it
Yeah.
was the narrowest. That put that on Loma Court.
Wasn't it mentioned that a precedent was already set with a pool close by in the same situation?
There is no such thing as precedent.
Yeah, we don't have precedents. At the BZA, there's no precedents.
Okay.
We got precedence back.
So I mean, it sounds like, unless maybe Bobby put it in form of a motion that we denied, or did you?
I did.
Okay. And then you go to the BZA and say, just do what we just talked about.
Well, gotta vote on that, right?
Yeah.
So is there a second?
Does anybody have any other discussion about this?
I'll second Bob's motion.
All right, who took my? I don't want that. Motion was made by Bob, seconded by Joy to deny this and send, which I'll send you the information about the variance that you would need to seek, the relief from that section. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side.
Aye.
Okay, we're all set.
We're good, thank you.
Well, you're not really all set. You're closer to being.
Next steps.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up is 2520 Shorewood Drive. You know what, they have to change their fence. We're not gonna discuss this yet. Last up is 1922 Lakeshore Drive, sand moving. This is the property immediately west of stop 20. And it's a request to, move sand that is blown up onto their stairs and some other areas. I've talked to Bruce Woodruff, who sent the permit in, and I explained to Bruce that, yes, that if the building commission votes positive on the permit, they can do that, but they cannot take the dune down. I just talked to him yesterday or day before, and unfortunately, I can't go down there. I don't know if there's dune grass on the dune where they're talking about moving the sand, and I think they need to establish what and tell us what they want to, what they want to move, not just, this is what we think we want to do. If they're going to bring heavy equipment down there, I think we should, my opinion is that we should have them explain exactly what they're going to do and that they cannot disturb the dune. Or we can tell them that they can go ahead.
I agree with it.
Anybody else have anything they want to suggest? So how do we want to go about this?
They yourselves.
Where they're gonna be. You got the knowledge of the, dues orders. What do we want to do?
Yeah, try to look and see what, I can't pull it.
The shore protection ordinance back?
Yeah.
Here, I'll pull it up.
Well, the other issue I had on there was, there was some issue about some stairs that I didn't see on there.
Well, there you go. I mean, especially it's cleaning it off there. Show where it's piled up in their backyard on the stairs and pretty much even what their seawall.
Was that an email, Chris?
I didn't see it.
And that was from you?
I didn't see anything on this property.
I don't see pictures of this.
No, you mean an application?
Yeah, I've been talking to the guys in marketing.
December 9th,
December,
December 9th.
yeah.
Yes.
December 6th, I'm sorry.
Was it emailed to me, Chris? Or,
Yeah, so what happened was the permit came out with no site plan. And so my question was, the permit asked to remove sand from existing stairs. I don't know where those stairs are.
Okay.
Give you a second.
well, yes, I mean, that's maintenance, and I explained that in the email. At least my opinion is if you've got sand blowing up, you live on the lake, and you've got sand blowing up on your stairs, that's just maintenance to clean that up. You don't really even need a permit for it.
But we gotta make sure that's all.
Well, that's been their entire question, because they waited a couple months for that. I'm gonna reset these pictures.
Okay.
Oh, we got pictures. Here you go, on this.
I did not. Well, I think they're considered to you.
Why isn't this coming? Okay, here you go. Oh, here's one. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's sand that's blown up on their deck or on their patio and that's, in my eyes, that's not something that needs a permit. Now this section right here, this concrete, why isn't this changing?
Yeah.
There we go.
So this is well behind our seawall.
Well, the first one was, so this is their seawall. See where the iron gate is all the way down through here? So this is sand that is blown up. This
So
is,
it buried all those private beach signs, the sand did,
yeah,
used to have that painted on there.
right.
Good.
And then this wall, between this wall and the seawall are stairs that come up here.
Okay. Well,
You don't see, right? I'll keep bringing them up.
so he wants to dig that area out and then what, have to walk up the dune to get to the beach? I mean, is he planning on digging out and uncovering his private beach signs on the seawall?
Well, I don't know that.
Now, that's what we need to know.
Because
The state has determined, remember, no permits required on this. Per se.
It's adjoining house, right?
So it's simply a jurisdictional issue. So that came out in the late summer, fall, that they were making it go through and they did about 3 of them under consideration as being one, and the DNR realized that maybe people jump through hoops that they should not. So the DNR generally does not care about standing, is their current position. And so anything north of natural ordinary high water mark seawall, their jurisdiction, otherwise, they do not have an issue, but they are advising people that they're subject to town ordinances, including heavy equipment, sand along the house.
And if somebody wants to do something that's incredibly stupid, like to unbury their buried seawall, is that a reason to not give them access to the beach? Although I believe this guy has access to.
They have their own.
they have their own access.
But I mean, sand
They
up,
don't even know what they want. I mean, they do that's part.
Right, that's the problem. And that's what I asked Bruce just yesterday again. I said, what are you doing? So if you look at this picture up on the screen now, this where the gate is, and if you look towards the water, you'll see their seawall down there. There's sand up to the front of that seawall, or there's sand. The only thing that you see is the cap of the seawall. This section behind here is stairs that are completely buried by sand. I think, it's my opinion, that all of this back here, that's just maintenance. They don't need a permit to do that. Sure, but I believe that it's against our ordinance to allow them to come in and plow this dune that's in front of us, it's built up out to the lake. Let's see if I can I'm trying to get all these up at once, it's not being very coordinated.
well, given the fact that you used to easily be able to see those private beach signs, that sand has to be built up at least 3 feet since the last time I was down. I think sand building up 3 feet, I think you could call that a dune, right?
All right, so let's,
Well, isn't it in front of the seawall?
What's that?
Isn't it in front of the seawall?
Yeah.
So it's not our jurisdiction, right?
well, no, that's not, our jurisdiction starts with the Army Corps of Engineers. And it's not the Gunderson thing or whatever, there's 2 schools of thought, but what is not, or never disputed is, our jurisdiction starts at the natural ordinary high water land. Anything from the natural ordinary high water mark lake is under the jurisdiction of the Department of Natural Resources and the Army Corps. So if you look at this picture, I can't walk up there because my feet are all falling out, but if you look at this picture, and see where the iron gate is?
Yes,
That's on top of the seawall.
yes,
To the right of that, the sand is sloped from there all the way down towards the beach.
yes.
What's behind that seawall is maybe, I think that's maintenance. I think that's, you go shovel that seed and you toss it on the other side or you go on your side.
I agree.
If they want to come down and go in front of the seawall and excavate down 4 or 5 feet to, like what Bob said, is expose that seawall, that's the destruction of the sand that's accreted over time.
I agree with you there, but doesn't that seawall become the natural ordinary high water mark? Because there's no vegetation in front of it.
Yeah.
So it's not our jurisdiction.
How is that not?
Well,
Because they originally went to the DNR. DNR is saying you do not need a permit.
Right.
So I guess you're gonna have to make a determination what you think your jurisdiction, but it has been put in the seawall, right?
Well, that's what the DNR
It's
said.
not what Gunderson says, but
The
it's,
DNR changed. They went now, what they've said now is they're going with the Army Corps of Engineers. And the Army Corps of Engineers, remember how the town paid for this study from Del Terra? And we waited for 6 months. They came with the back and they said it was 500, I don't know what it was. I'm gonna say 581. 584. No, that was later.
They didn't actually give us a altitude. They gave us maps that showed us on each one that we paid for where it was.
Right, but they determined that, and then in that report, of the 200 pages, there was one page that wasn't boilerplate, and it said 581. So, but they said that it was not official because the Army Corps had not approved of their designation or their delineation. So unbeknownst to us, 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months later, we got a letter from the DNR, from the Army Corps that said, we understand that you went out and hired Del Terra to do these delineations for you. We do not agree with their delineations. They went from Stop 31 to Whiting, Indiana, and they determined as a blanket shot from there, they went to all these different places and they said, we are using for the National Ordinary Water, the Army Corps of Engineers, it's using 584. So historically, since that happened, it's always been my thought was, okay, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. Now, there are people that will argue, no, it has to be done on this lot according to the Gunderson ruling. So the DNR no longer, so then the DNR said, okay, we're gonna camp on the Army Corps of Engineers. And we're gonna say, we're not gonna fight with them, because at one point, the DNR did say it was the toe of the seawall. And actually, the toe of the seawall really isn't the correct terminology. The toe of the seawall is where the steel sheet piling hits the bottom of the sheet piling into the clay or whatever. What they meant to say was, it's where the accreted sand hits the vertical section of the seawall. But so I think that they can do anything they want in their yard. I don't see any reason why we would stop them. I don't think they even need a permit. But if they want to take equipment down on the beach and they want to plow that sand anywhere behind the 584, which is the Army Corps' National Ordinary I-1, they have to abide by our ordinances, which is, Bob, is that you cannot plow a dune into the lake, correct?
Right, that's what we said.
Okay.
I guess he's thinking he's gonna plow all that out of it. And that's gonna diminish how much sand goes up into his backyard.
I think that's probably,
Reaccumulate in front of the seawall.
and it's the same thing. I
That's
just got,
lasting about a month.
right, I just got a letter from a landscaper on the Tolman property, it's stop 17, and talking about that very same thing. So what happened there is, hold on, I'll show you this.
Where is 584?
I don't know. It's probably 20 or 30 feet lakeward to City Hall.
It is until he plows it out, and then it'll be right at the base of the sea.
Okay, here's an example of what the reasoning is behind what you hear from the Army Corps, the DNR, and everybody else. So this is stop 13. This is the house that's split, used to be Liddell's house. The house that's split between Michigan City and Long Beach. This is, the property owner's name doesn't make any difference. So what they did here on this property, where you see the snow fence laid up here, they came in with a dozer and they plowed all that sand down to the beach. And then 2 years ago, the landscaper came and said, hey, we want to plow that out again because the sand is blowing up towards your pool, which is way up here. And I said, no, do you understand why the sand is blowing up in your pool? Because you destroyed the dune and all the dune bricks. So everybody along here that hasn't destroyed the dune has the natural protection. Let's go to stop 17. Where am I? No. Okay, so this is the one that we had the issue with the Tones. This is their pool, and this is what they were doing was I don't know, it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They came in and they dug out all the dune grass so that they could walk to the beach and not go over the top of the dune. You can see all the dune grass here? There's no sand blowing up in the pool where the dune grass is, but because they destroyed the dune here and the dune grass, that sand blows up into their yard. If they would leave it, well, let's go to the property we're talking about now.
So what are we considering the town's jurisdiction? 584? Land loan? Vegetation? Total sea wall? What is it?
Well, according to the ordinance, the beach protection ordinance, they're supposed to provide us with a delineation.
With what?
A delineation.
For things that are in majors, right? I mean, that's.
But with the delineation,
Well, and how do you determine what's in your delineation in your jurisdiction without a delineation?
And the state code does not make any reference to 584. So it goes back to what Gunner's described, right?
Right. And that's everybody is on their own, right?
Well, but, right, like the whole vegetation, and then they made the arbitrary. Sorry, I guess more is the DNR is taking the position that is not your jurisdiction, and there are permits on that side, right? But and as you said, they're certainly making some determinations somewhere, whether they officially adopt the 584 or not, and, you know, Army Corps coming in.
okay,
Under, I don't know, what the.
are we gonna listen to what the Supreme Court says or what some other body says? I mean, you have to decide.
We guys are done it both ways. I agree with you.
I mean, if it's 584, then they give us a survey where it's 584. That's found, and we know what to do. If it's the Supreme Court, then it's verification or go to the seawall or whatever I can do the law. So we gotta make some decisions. What are we gonna do? Let's keep going.
So here's the property that we're discussing right now. This is a picture from March of 24. Okay, this is the picture from March of 24. So where you saw in those pictures that we just got, or that I showed you, it's hard to tell because this blue line is here. That's the stairs that used to be, they would go to the beach. They're covered with sand now. And this little short seawall section protected those stairs. So now, this sand, you can see when you look down here, let's say it's from the top of the seawall to the top of the sand that's blown up there is 4 feet. Here, it's 0. But sand is starting to blow up into the yard. I will maintain that anything that blows up in your yard, you don't need a permit for it.
I would agree with that, Larry, and if you went back to the picture, not that you have to, showing the fence with the sand on the other side and the beach on the other, I'll just envision them going down there with a skid steer or bobcat, picking the sand up, like you said, on their side, and then dumping it over the fence on the other side, which, what happens there on the other side? Can they go out there and flatten them? Probably not. They're dealing with the DNR at that point, then, right? Right, yeah, so are we gonna get,
We could walk and say, if you want, scoop this up and haul it away, everything that's on their side, that's fine. If you want, still over the granite and the other way.
that's, I agree with that. And if I can get our friend to tell us what he's gonna do, then I think we can make that determination. But if they're talking about coming here and digging from the seawall that is 5 feet down and just. No, they can't do that. No, and the reason that they shouldn't do it is, they should either be putting snowbanks up there temporarily or planting dune branch, so that then they establish a natural line.
what happens if they decide to take that sand and remove it off of the property? Do we have any limitation on that?
They can do that.
Okay,
They can
so that's one option they could do.
That's what I said, they can let pay. That's fine.
You see these properties right here, this is stop 18 or 19, pardon me. This historically, same thing here. These 5 property owners, pardon me. Let me get to see, you can see it without all this lines. You can see it towards the top of the page. These people towards the top of the page didn't plow the dune grass down. So now it's protecting them from sand blowing up into their yard. This group of residents, these 4, you can see where they plow it down. Now the sand blows up in their yard. So they're actually making it worse on themselves by doing it. So I mean, I think I'll go back to them and just say, look, what are you gonna do? And then, you know, the decision.
You get the option of saying, if you screw it up all the way, it's fine. That's on me.
Well, best thing is that you get them on the need for the dune grass to be planted in the beach lawn.
No. And so throw one more monkey wrench in the works. The Lake Michigan Coastal Program, and report to you guys, I sit on the grant bench. They told me that they're gonna do a delineation, the DNR is gonna do one this year. Actually, they told me last year, they're supposed to do last fall. Right, they're supposed to do it in October. And when we had our meeting in November, I asked Joe Excel, I said, Joe, what's going on? Well, we haven't gotten funding. So if they come out and say, let's just say 584, if they came out with 584, I would be of the same opinion. Anything anybody wants to do from 584 down to the lake, we don't have anything to do with it.
I think that some would argue that Gunderson says opposite. There's a definition. That's where you guys have to decide. And at some point, something's gonna get off center. To me, it doesn't matter if it's 700 feet. It isn't the law, and something's gonna have to give somewhere, right? The delineations do not match what the law says and Gunderson. And I'm looking at an ordinance or a statute that's defined what the natural ordinary high water mark is. So again, there's a rub, and you guys have made other decisions based on that. We had a discussion today about Fate making the natural ordinary high water mark, which is gonna be based on that 584, right? Someone's gonna have to give it some.
I'm sure that's what he's gonna do. John, the question is told me that he will, for clients and not from the town. He said, hey, I can come and do that for you. And when we charge you. You know, that's always a little humble to him. All right. So I'll just tell Bruce he's gotta tell us what he's gonna do. That's it. Anybody else?
2226, what do we think? He gave us,
Yes, survey was a survey.
that was deficient parking spaces. And they're supposed to do, they said they're doing now, they're supposed to do that originally. So they are in violation.
So
And we issued the permit based on their information, their information was not correct.
but their parking space situations, that's always been that.
Yes, but they've made it a critical issue now because they no longer honor the language. So, I mean, that's the issue. They gotta come up with the language. And
They gave us the last, let me see if I can come here. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to make sure. Two issues.
What, you're done, you were done right off the bat.
Oh, okay. That's just it.
Oh, you got something else?
Then I was shooting stuff.
Okay. Gary, where are your,
So I had a general permit at 2137, the meeting in November, the formal use wasn't correct. I resubmitted it the following week. Chris said that you and Carter could issue that permit after the country board meeting. They're looking for that. And the 2907 Montclair Way property was both last meeting, board approved the permit.
yeah, that permit was approved last week.
Yeah, I started with drinking. I asked repeatedly, I mean, I followed up with my other items, I know the board is concerned about the steep slope ordinance, I've engaged.
2937, you were just short the paperwork, right?
Yeah, that was resubmitted the following week. You know, we're waiting.
2907, that permit, I'll just have to ask Joe to issue it. But that permit was issued, it's the same thing, you just have to abide by the steep slope.
Yeah, but again, I would ask for the green tag. I mean, ask God, and then I don't want to bug anybody, but I don't want to start concrete, so, and the same with the demo, you know, we'll be in, Heidi's completing the groundation, waiting for Haas Engineering to complete the septic drawings for that, but I want to try to get a start on the demolition, so my client will vacate the home, so we can hopefully
But I know you know this, because you and I had talked about it, but we're warning everybody, don't tear a house down until you have the drawings for the new house.
Yeah, we have drawings, we have, we're prepared, just the one thing we do not have, and I don't want to submit part of it to you, is the septic from House Engineering and doing this, and they done this.
Just as I said, Gary, you gotta consider it a warning, because it turned a simple permit into a 3-year.
I understand fully, it's a pretty simple septic, this is.
Well, I'll get a hold of Joe Monday and have him get the green tag for the one. I don't. I don't know, I'll get together on the demo. I don't think that's an issue.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you. Bob?
No, I was just gonna ask you.
Oh,
I just get an application for a driveway, we're trying to go to Chastity Point.
is that what yeah.
This and then they, and I have a thing that's sleeping. So, I don't. The issue is the retaining wall, or wasn't supposed to do that.
The moment we is not been there because, but I mean, we don't need it, we can put some ground over there for.
Right, so here's what has to happen. You have to remove the retaining wall. Otherwise, that's what you were cited. So I know you paid the ticket, but the retaining wall is still there.
Yeah, we just not been there because I got the paper there to not keep working, so I don't want no issues at all, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, I'm ready to remove it, I already go to my.
The first thing you gotta do is take the retaining wall, then you can keep going.
Okay,
So,
You're able to take the retaining wall.
yeah, that would be the first thing we're doing.
okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You guys have a good day.
You too.
That's perfect.
Here's the coverage. They sent us. So what their coverage is, I guess we'll have to relook at this. We talked about this at the last week. Their coverage would be 35.76 at 22.26. But then, then what you're saying, Peter, is the parking spots, right? So what do we want to do? I'm going to get to 35%.
Do they have two parking spots? Two parking spots?
You got to.
And they have to have 3?
They build another parking spot, and they got some tracks and the garage also the parking spot. Yes, yeah. Outside. On this side. Okay.
And just because I have this, so, did we grant them a permit?
They came in for a permit for the house. They were rehabbing the house, which was a separate permit, separate contract. Then they came in for a permit to do landscaping outside. Their landscaping put them over the limit and then also put them encroaching into a setback.
Did we grant that?
No, so they came back to us and said, we corrected this, we're now at 35%. And we moved away from we were in compliance with the setback. So we said, okay, we approved that. Then a month, 2 months later, we go out to check the work and they're building what they said that they weren't going to do. They're building the original stuff that was over this coverage and encroached into the setback. So we said, you gotta take all that out and put it back, which they did. So then there was, that work's done, 2 separate permits, house permit and landscaping permit. The landscaping permit, we said, went back to them and said, your coverage isn't correct. It looks like you've got no coverage. The higher surveyor, well, he was having problems hiring a surveyor, which I can understand. he finally got the thing to give him a survey. And here, what's up, what's up on the screen is what they're proposed, the current one, what they had done is 42%. What they're proposing is 35.76. But as Pete said, they're proposing taking out parking space, which they can't do because they need the parking space.
Matching it up.
But they put the parking space in that was not on the original permit, so the voter was not permit.
And a certificate of occupancy be rescinded.
Is there one?
Well, the certificate of occupancy was given to them based on their house job, not on the landscaping job. They were two separate,
But can it be rescinded?
I don't know.
Is that? What that? I don't know.
No, it was what?
The shit.
I heard the inspection on the property, I don't, I've never, I know we used to have.
Yeah, Karen, I think, Kate, Steve,
You're not involved in the limbo or?
well,
It's just a GP inspection.
so we have to decide whether we're gonna tell them, you gotta get parking places and you gotta get on with the coverage. I will tell you, it's another one where I'm trying to work with them.
Yep.
And I ended up getting shot.
And they gave us, we made our decision based on incorrect data that they provided.
Which you can invoke until they prevent for that. That's all. And there's a lot of things you can do. It's just a matter of things across.
So one would be to not allow people to live there with a certificate of occupancy. The other would be to start daily towns.
There is one to know.
Okay, are people living there? Maybe we need to ask the police to make sure nobody's living there.
Are we still talking 22, 26?
Yes.
Yeah, they're there part-time.
Well, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be.
Well, I walk the golf course, they're not there, I mean, they're there more in the summer, they're typical second homeowners.
Think possibly just failed that certificate of occupancy.
Yeah, right, I know, but yes, they are there occasionally.
Maybe daily funds and give them an election. But, good luck this one on. You need to put it into, because again, pretty soon we're gonna be out for 2 years. Right?
I don't know what resets the clock. I'm sure we well in 2 years because we were and communication with that. Yeah.
They decided.
Right. I guess that's it. I don't know what you guys want us to do. I'll do whatever you want.
I mean, Chris sent them a letter saying, you know what, it's been, I'll figure out how long it's been. We've been talking to you, we haven't done anything. And as of a month from the receipt of this certified letter, Daily Fines will start. Was that?
Finally could have started, it was one of the violations.
Correct. We could.
They could hope they're diligent, could cite that they're not gonna issue an occupancy permit, sorry.
Well, and then maybe at the PS, don't have a certificate of occupancy, nobody can do in this house, except for contract. That'd be good, they do both.
Contractor's license, they're taking action, I mean, there's options.
All right.
So that'd be my motion to do two things. One would be to say 30% of a certified letter, explaining them what we've done, what they have not done. Tell them in 30 days, maybe fines will start after what those fines are. I'm sure we've got a number. And then PS, you don't have a certificate of occupancy, the building should be in that house. That's my motion.
There's a second.
Second,
Pete, any discussion?
I'd like to make it 2 weeks, so this has been a joke.
You want to amend your motion back to 2 weeks?
No, 30 days. It is the middle of winter.
Well, if they update, I mean, one of the cures for this is amending their application or submitting the things they need, so doing it in 2 weeks won't probably be to a resolution or from back and forth.
Okay, are you okay with 30 days? Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Anything else? Oh, there's nobody, I don't think there's anybody on Zoom. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Larry, you want to know the process?
I'm sorry, I don't know.